Into the empty black void you trudge, the lack of light stripping the bravery from your heart, just as the winds blast what's left of your sanity from your mind in these twisted, isolated caverns.
Think you have the fortitude to brave these darkened halls? Then join us as we discover the maddening lore in the howling, windswept depths of Pandemonium.
That's how we roll. 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 That's how we roll.
Welcome to the Goblin's Corner. My name is Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And tonight,
We're discussing Pandemonium.
that's right, the howling madness, the winds that scour the flesh from your bones just as easily as it scours the thoughts from your head.
Indeed.
And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about some Planar lore for you to use in your campaign, and I might add, this is a fun plane.
In a different way than usual.
Very much so. So let's get into the mix. But before we do, of course, if you haven't yet, hit the like and subscribe button. Help our show get out to more people and get notified when more awesome shows come your way.
Indeed. And hey, if you're listening to the show, give us a review on iTunes or Podchaser.
Howling winds of pandemonium will strip the flesh from your bones.
Sure.
I mean,
It could happen.
it could happen.
It could.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of howling winds, what's so cool about Pandemonium, Matt?
Well, as previously mentioned, first you have to start with the howling madness.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you think of the description of the plane, that's the first thing that pops into your mind, and probably because it's the first thing that was written about it.
Yeah.
It's really interesting in many different ways. The first is that it was often associated not just with one particular alignment, but two,
Yes.
chaotic evil and chaotic neutral.
And it is one of the only dual-aligned planes.
Yes, and I find that particularly fascinating.
Pandemonium isn't the first place people think of when they think of a lower plane, and because that, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a blank slate in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that fascinating myself as well. And also, it's made purposely vague, which gives DMs lots of creative license to play with. Now, that can be a double-edged sword, as we'll find out as well, because, hey, if you don't know what to come up with, that could be tough. But it also means that it doesn't have any lore that you could use.
Right. And you're also not handcuffed by any lore that already exists.
100%. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about some history of this howling plane of chaos and madness.
Sure.
First off, it came from Dragon Magazine around number 8.
Right. So it's been around.
Been around since the beginning, and it really hasn't been touched since. Like, the last thing that came about was Manual of the Planes, and of course, the box set Planes of Chaos behind you.
Sure.
But there's not really a whole lot after that. It hasn't really been expanded in a lot of the lore books. It hasn't really been talked about much in the novels that I'm aware of.
Nope. They didn't do a lot of lore expansion with it. They just kind of sort of reprinted what was there. I mean, they chucked in a couple of very minor descriptions of cities there, but only, 3 or 4 of them?
Yeah.
And then literally we're like, and there you go.
Cool. Here you go. Here's some stuff for you.
This plane still exists.
This plane exists. It's mysterious. Ooh, look how spooky it is. The howling winds will drive you mad. And that's it.
Yep.
Now, I feel that in many ways they purposely kept it mysterious because, and we'll find out why, because the different layers have some really interesting things going on with them. And if you're a savvy DM, you can make use of this. These are gifts to give to you.
Sure.
And we'll show you some tips on how to, to do that as well.
Absolutely.
So in a nutshell, what are we talking about? What are we dealing with, Matt?
In a nutshell, at its very basic form, Pandemonium is just a plane made entirely of rock, which is shot through with tunnels of various sizes. I mean, that's it. It's basically a mega, never-ending Underdark.
Yeah, mega Underdark, right? Underdark City the whole time. All open space was filled with howling winds that carried the sound of every word, every shout, every whisper or scream uttered in the entire dimension, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
So without adequate protection, beings who had hearing, any sound-based type stuff, were rendered temporarily deaf in a matter of seconds and permanently deaf in just a few minutes.
It's not good.
That's messed up.
Better bring the really good noise-canceling headphones.
Yeah, you better get some earplugs like straight up.
Not only did the noise render you deaf, it also killed all normal fire. There's no natural light. Conversation could basically only be accomplished by shouting at each other in close range. And that's with the assumption that somebody in the group could still hear you to have
you
the
weren't
conversation.
rendered deaf at
Right.
that point. So we've got dark caverns full of howling winds that can drive you crazy
Yep.
and deaf. So you're deaf, you're crazy, you're blind because you can't see anything
Sure.
unless you have dark vision, I guess. And you're isolated. You're, enclosed with stone all around you. Ripe for paranoia, right?
Sounds like a delightful place.
Sounds like a great place. Let's talk some planar stats.
Okay.
Now, I found this fun quote. I think this was out of the box set. My God, the wind, the howling, it's driving me mad. An ordinary thing to hear in Pandemonium. I love that phrase.
Sure. That's a basic description of the place
Sums
right
it up,
there.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. But what are we talking about here planar-wise?
It is an infinite plane. So not like a demiplane. It just keeps going.
Just is what it is.
It has objective directional gravity. So basically, if you look at a tunnel as circular-ish, the point of up is the center of the tunnel.
Yes.
The outside wall of the tunnel is down.
Yes, you could walk on the walls, walk on the ceiling, and if there's a river or something like that, it might actually go through the middle, depending on how gravity works.
Or it could literally do corkscrews.
Spin all the way around. That's kind of fun. There's normal magic with the exception that sound-based spells have very limited range, which of course means that the howling winds stop it,
Sure.
and probably because you can't hear it.
Right.
There are 4 layers. So what do we got in terms of 4 layers, Matt?
You've got Pandesmos,
Mm-hmm.
Cocytus, Phlegethon, and Agathion.
Okay. Let's talk about Pandesmos.
Okay.
That's the most habitable layer of the 4. And when I say, quote unquote, habitable layer of the 4. So Pandesmos had the largest cavern, so it had the most open spaces.
Sure.
And you'll often see small cities being built like on the walls of the caverns and stuff like that. It also had the river Styx flowing through it,
Sure.
through the rocky waste. And it should be noted, by the way, that there's not really much plant life when we get into like the terrain and flora and fauna. In fact, I don't think there's any.
Nope.
Just rock and wind, maybe some sand. Nearly all the great cities and citadels in Pandemonium were to be found here because it was the most open spaces.
Yeah. That in and of itself has a lot of interesting and fun options. The river Styx runs through. So that is one of the forms of travel, right?
Yep.
But also one of the only places you're going to be able to get food, right? You can fish.
I mean, you're going to find some Styx fish.
Sure.
So you're going to eat it. You're going to forget that you had a meal. You're going to go fishing again. You're going to eat it. You forget you had a meal.
No, that's only if you drink the water or fall in. Of course, depending on what you catch, you may get drug in. But hey, that's a chance you take when you're hungry because nothing grows here.
Let's talk about Cocytus.
All right. Cocytus is called the layer of lamentation because the wind whistling through the tunnels carries the cries of anguish and the sound of sorrow.
Yeah, and if you think it's not a lower plane, now you know.
Right? The passages on this level are narrower, making the noise shrill enough to drive anyone insane with unprotected hearing.
And I want to stress the point, anyone,
Yes.
because it's not just humanoids or mortals.
Anyone.
You could have a Baylor rocking, just slowly going mad.
So here's one of the things you have to think about, right? Is some of the lower depths are already pretty off kilter.
Mm-hmm.
So is it possible that they go crazy, like all of a sudden they decide to be a baker and they're just like, I'm going to go to the Prime and make strawberry muffins for everyone.
I think that would be great. I want to know if this affects Slod as well. Because if a Slod goes crazy, how can you tell?
Right.
Does it go sane? Does it drive Slod sane?
Maybe that's where the lawful slud come from.
Maybe so. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. Now, unlike the natural-looking tunnels and caves of Pandesmos, the passages of Cocytus were carved by beings unknown even to the gods. I love this phrase. Because, okay, what's the rest of the story? There isn't one.
Right.
DMs, fill this in.
Yeah. Who carved it?
Who carved it? Anybody. What is it? Was it Mighty Cthulhu? Was it a giant dwarf? Was it purple worms from before the time of mortals? Like, think about what could have created these caverns.
One of the ideas I like is this is a lower plane, right? So while normally you don't find a lot of things written about the natives here, only just a couple, there are natives here and nobody knows who they are. And they're still just tunneling.
Oh, they've never seen them? That's great. Yeah, or maybe they've been driven mad before they get to them.
Sure.
Or maybe they're the source of the madness.
Could be.
That's another great thing. Think about that. That's fun. So in addition to Pandesmos and Casitas, we also have the third layer, Phlegethon, which is the layer of dark and damp. Lovely, right?
Absolutely.
I think it's a great little mental picture. The walls are matte black and absorb all light with no reflection. All light sources illuminate half as far as normal.
Sure.
So in addition to the howling winds and the damp coldness and the fact that it's going to extinguish any fires anyway, if you do manage to get, say, I don't know.
Light spells.
Yeah, light spells, something like that.
Sure.
Matte black's going to absorb that bad boy up. It's cool. Many rivers and streams cut through the black rock, and the constant dripping of eons builds up stalactites, stalagmites, and other cave formations. This is one of the few layers on the entire plane that has normal gravity.
Sure. Now,
not that that's going to help you any.
So you've got black on black, all of which absorb all light.
Yes.
How do you not walk into that stalactite?
Oh, you're going to totally go face first into it. You're wandering around. I'm assuming, like, okay, you're a humanoid, right? Or let's say you got dark vision. That's fine. You're still not going to be able to see much.
Right.
And you're going to be, you're trying to not lose your mind. You've got this torch, and it's just sputtering. Maybe it's the ever-burning torch. That way, at least it's shedding some light.
Sure.
And, of course, you're an adventurer, so you're wearing all black against a matte black wall. I mean, you're coming out like an AC/DC album cover, right?
Sure.
Like it's
Yep, it's like that sometimes.
It's like that sometimes. Now, finally, we have Agathion. Tell me about Agathion, Matt.
Agathion is the deepest known layer of Pandemonium, and it was made of solid rock with no tunnels and only giant spherical bubbles of air or vacuum, depending on, what they decided to fill it with.
Free prize inside with every air bubble.
Exactly. Those bubbles, with a barrier to Phlegethon, were filled with huge windstorms, capable of flinging even large humanoids around, and pockets without a connection to the next level were often the final resting places of things that should not be awakened.
Yes. This is awesome.
And that is part of the lore of the realm.
Yeah, and that's it. Again, that's all they give you, right? How cool is this to hide elder evils or something nasty?
Now, see, that's one way to look at it.
Okay.
Another way to look at it is this. What about greater goods that have been locked away here? And the phrase, things that should not be awakened, are actually used because this is an evil realm. You could literally hide anything down here.
I love that.
And depending on who generated that phrase determines what it is that's behind any given bubble.
Yeah. So DMs, Agathion is a treasure box for you to throw whatever MacGuffin or entity you wish to put in there.
Absolutely.
You want an artifact? Put it in Agathion. You want an elder evil, or as you mentioned, an elder good, which if you haven't seen our episode on elder goods, go check it out.
Sure.
Now, portals to the Pandemonium realm can be found throughout the multiverse, but more particularly in a couple of places. First off, of course, the astral plane.
Sure.
Because that's where it is.
Portals to everywhere.
Yeah. Where else could we find it?
You can also find portals to Pandemonium from the Shadowfell.
Yep, that makes sense, right?
Sure.
Wander along the Shadowfell, end up in the dark. Again, go to the Abyss, which also makes sense, and Limbo, because, of course, it is chaotic neutral, chaotic evil, Abyss, and Limbo.
Yep. From the Underdark. You're walking through a cave, and you just keep walking through a cave until the howling starts.
You just escaped from Menzo Baranzan, and it kind of sucks. You're limping along, and you kind of suck. It suddenly sucks a little bit more, and now the wind picks up, and it sucks even more.
And everything sucks.
And everything sucks. but then you go mad. You don't remember it.
Mhm.
You could also get to Pandemonium through Carcery,
Which is super important to understand.
because if you can get out of Carcery,
Exactly.
great, but now you're in Pandemonium.
I'll take Pandemonium.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, we'll have to do Carcery next. We can also get to it from the Feywild,
Sure.
Queen of Air and Darkness.
Yep.
And then finally, as you mentioned before, the River Styx.
Yeah. It can take you anywhere you want to go
Yeah.
if you really want to go.
Now, there's a lot of different things about surviving in Pandemonium. So let's talk a little bit about the challenges. First off, travel is, as you might expect, Underdark travel.
Right.
And getting around is pretty easy for the most part.
Perhaps even easier than in some places in the Underdark because you can literally just corkscrew along the walls, right? Like gravity is outward.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that depending upon what realm in Pandemonium you're in would depend on the size of the cavern. So if you're in Pandesmos, there's some big caverns. They're usually, 10, 20 feet at the smallest.
Now, if you get down to Casitas, the winds could toss you down a rabbit hole
Absolutely.
and into another part of the plane, or it could sling you against the rocks. Maybe you have to squeeze through something smaller than you are.
Yes, and because the winds can toss you and carry you, fling you, you might get squeezed into a small cavern and forcefully fit through it.
I would not be a monster about that. Caveat, I would be a monster about that. However, I would not automatically kill a character. But you know what happens when you put a cork in something that's pressurized?
Yes, they pop.
Exactly. Just all of a sudden they just start gaining speed because they were stuck in something that's only slightly smaller than they are. And so the pressure builds up and they just start and pop out somewhere else in the plane.
Slam into an Umberhawk or something like that. Be a lot of fun.
Headbutt.
Yeah. Phlegethon has normal gravity, as we mentioned before, and the stalactites and stalagmites. Now, it is matte black, as you mentioned. It's got lots of rivers, so getting through it isn't that bad if you can navigate the darkness and the fact that the sticks will make you lose your memory.
Yeah. At the top, the wind is less maddening. At the bottom, it's more maddening.
Yes.
But if you could get past the whole wind situation, you got fresh water, maybe something to eat down here, out of the river because nothing grows here. Yeah, maybe not so bad.
Yep. And then finally, of course, Agathion is going to be tough to get around because it's solid rock. So unless you can burrow, you're out of luck. Or phase. Maybe you're a Zorn. So all of this means that it's easy to get lost. It's slow going for the most part because you have to wander through caverns unless you burrow. And even then, you have to burrow. And it's hard to get out of the elements because every single part of the plane is hit by the winds.
Yes. Realistically, the environment of the plane attempts to isolate you.
Yes, absolutely.
And DMs should feel free to have the environment do that. Play on the feeling of isolation and paranoia.
Yes, because that's the whole kind of motif is you slowly go mad. You don't know where you are. You don't know what's going on.
Throw a couple of delusions in there for fun.
Oh, illusions. Yeah, or delusions. Either or both.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's happening, right?
Right. Like, let's say the party's all holding hands, right? And you're the cleric and you're holding the thief's hand and the thief is holding the paladin's hand and the paladin's holding the second thief's hand and the second thief is holding... Wait,
who's
we
the
only
second
have...
thief?
Right.
Yeah, and then
So
the
which
second
thief is the real thief?
the second thief eats the first thief, and now you have to decide, well, did that actually happen in my mind? Or is the second thief eating the first thief, and is the first thief the one that was originally in my party?
Right.
Or is it the second thief has gone mad and is eating somebody else?
Right. Who knows?
Maybe I'm eating all of them.
Right.
Maybe this is all an illusion. How delightful. Welcome to Pandemonium.
I woke up and my pillow's missing.
Yes. Let's talk about the terrain and weather and some natural dangers, Matt.
Sure.
Now, obviously, what's the biggest problem?
Well, the combination of gale force winds and the darkest, dark, lightless caverns you can have.
Yes. So the wind and water are going to get you, right? Sand and debris could scour you to the bone, which would be fun for description-wise.
Sure. Or the wind could just pick you up and deposit you somewhere.
Yeah,
Or the wind could use you to scour something else.
absolutely. Now, things are intentionally vague here, so DMs, feel free to add other elements into this dimension. It is a hell. Hey, we've got a couple of examples. We'll help you out here. First off, think about this. You're underground, right?
Sure.
Magma chambers, where the howling winds drive infernos for miles and then drive you mad.
Sure.
So you're trying to put your clothes out as this furnace is blasting hot chunks of magma at you, and the winds are driving you crazy.
Now, that's awful. That's no good. What about a cavern or a group of caverns that are made of salt, where you start getting pummeled by salt and basically just desiccated and turn into adventurer jerky?
Yeah, adventure beef jerky. I love that. You could also add any of the ridiculous Underdark that happens. So mushroom caves, radioactive, the Faeries in Forgotten Realms, portals to the negative material plane. Go crazy with it, right? Have some fun with the natural dangers. Toxic vents. The air is breathable, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
It just said wind. Wind of what? Could be wind of natural gas.
Well, the other thing is what if it comes in puffs, right? You're just walking along. You don't see anything. You see the smoke cloud coming at you at 90 miles an hour. Make a save. And you make one save. You're either good or you're not good.
Bludgeoning and acid damage.
And then it's gone.
Yeah. Or bludgeoning and poison damage.
Sure.
Or bludgeoning and fire damage. Whatever happens, it's going to be bad times. Natural dangers in terms of like animals, flora, and fauna, not much, right? Really, it's just the wind. Now, you can get dashed against the rocks, as we mentioned. You could die of exposure.
Sure.
You could go mad.
Or you could mix and match.
You could mix
do
and
all
match.
three.
Do all three. There are inhabitants, people who are left here or who have purposely been here, and there are quite a few nasty ones.
Yeah. I think the only things that are native to here that I recall are howlers.
Yes.
Which also not kind and gentle creatures.
No, they're kind of nasty. There are also, and people don't mention this much, but you're in an Underdark kind of environment. So what do we got?
I mean, you could have cave-ins, you could have earthquakes, you could have anything that realistically can happen in the Underdark.
Yeah, you get stalactite gets broken off by the howling winds and pierces you through the chest.
Flooding.
Oh, you get flooded out.
Because if a chamber above you is a river and it eventually cuts through the rock into your chamber, now all of a sudden
You're getting pressure washed by a
Yep.
river. That sucks. I love that. So PCs, if you're trying to survive in Pandemonium, plug your ears, have some dark vision, find yourself a burrowing friend or fiend, and try not to get dashed against the rocks by the wind.
Sure. There you go. That's a simple checklist.
Simple checklist.
Don't die. Don't go crazy.
Don't go crazy. Don't die. Don't get dashed against the rocks. Matt, why on earth would you visit this place?
It's a great place to be if you don't want to be found, because most people don't want to come here.
Yeah, nobody wants to come here.
It has hordes of lost treasure and lost artifacts.
Yep.
Imagine, I don't know, this is just my brain. You know how it works. Imagine putting up just a giant net of metal cable in one of the tunnels, and then you just swing by every couple days to see what it caught.
Collect treasure.
Mm-hmm.
Pick up the bits of people that got pushed through the mesh.
Mm-hmm.
Be a lot of fun.
But things like, if it was small enough, things like necklaces or rings or whatever might get caught because the wind's certainly strong enough to blow them around.
And you just pick that up and be a treasure dealer.
Mm-hmm.
It also has many secrets. And in fact, there's a particular location which can supposedly carry any whisper to any part of any realm, which I find really cool.
Yeah, it literally makes you able to contact anyone or anything.
Which is neat.
That is a superpower.
That is a superpower. Speaking of superpowers, we've got a particular superpower, and it's called what, Matt?
Question of the week.
All right. What's the question of the week this week?
We've been kind of harping on how awful this place is.
Yeah, chaotic evil.
Right? But Pandemonium isn't completely evil. It's also chaotic neutral.
It's true.
Can you give me an odd encounter to either amuse or intrigue your players?
I would say, because of the howling winds, I would have a saxophone player who holds his saxophone outside in the winds and lets the wind play the reed, and he just kind of plays a little tune on a saxophone.
Sure.
Think
So
of
just
like a slod version of Kenny G.
yeah.
I think that would be a lot of fun and hilarious. Can you see that mental picture?
I'm learning. I will learn the secrets of the universe, the music that created it all.
Is a slod. He's got like a what is it? A Fabio style.
Oh, yeah. Either
White
no
shirt.
shirt or like the very loose, flowy
He's
shirt.
got the loose flowy shirt, so you can see his bubbly chest.
Yeah. But it's got to be like wide cut, like
Yeah.
all the way down to the
Big
belly
old
button.
deep V. It's got a
Yeah.
little bit of tie at the bottom of it. You know, he's got some pantaloons.
Sure.
No shoes, because
No.
you know slod don't rock that.
Who wears shoes?
He's got but the saxophone's beautiful, right? It's just this golden saxophone of brass and metal, and it's got a delightful little green reed, perhaps,
Sure.
and he just plays a merry tune. What happens when you listen to the tune? Well, that's for you to decide. What about you? What would be your amusing encounter?
It's funny that we both went frog-like
Of course.
because my answer is, since we have to keep in mind that gravity is directional from the center, a group of grung riding on wheeled boards with sails using the winds of Pandemonium to drive the sails forward
Saying cowabunga as they go through the tunnels.
and just like corkscrewing and doing tricks and just hauling down a cave. Just,
having a great time.
they've already lost their minds, but this is the direction they lost it in.
We've lost our minds, bro, but we haven't lost our boards.
Sure.
That's great. I love that. Of course, we're always interested in what you have to say as well. If you've got an interesting encounter you can put in the windswept depths of Pandemonium, hit us up at Goblin's Corner on Twitter, or of course, you could reach us on Mastodon and all the social media channels.
If you're watching us on YouTube, just put a comment down below.
Absolutely. Now, we mentioned Slod, but there's all kinds of unique creatures you could put in Pandemonium. And we say could because pretty much out of the box, you got howlers, and that's about it.
Right.
It is a desolate plain. So
Now-
we have a couple of suggestions.
I mean, realistically, anything could end up here. It's a plane.
Yes.
But most likely you're going to find demons,
Mm-hmm.
devils,
That makes sense.
probably like giants, like stone giants or something like that. Something
Fomorians.
that, yeah, Fomorians makes sense.
Bugbears would be good. There's a deity of bugbears here.
Mm-hmm. Burrowing creatures. I mean, that makes perfect sense. Purple worms, umber hulks, but
Yeah.
Anything.
Giant badgers. Anything would be great for that. Earthbenders. I mean, you could have...
sure.
Who knows, right? Crazy earthbender. You know, it'd be funny if you had like adapted a little bit of Avatar: The Last Airbender game to this.
Yeah.
You're in Pandemonium and you just see this absolutely bonkers earthbender just pop out, give you a lollipop, and then just burrow back in.
Sure. It's like swimming through the water like a dolphin. I mean, through the earth like a dolphin.
Yeah, making
Yeah.
the sound and everything. That would
Absolutely.
be awesome. Just as like you're in this like really serious thing, like the party's dying, the cleric is trying to heal the person, and then this earthbender just pops up like Flipper, hands a lollipop to somebody, and just dives back into the stone.
Sure.
That would be awesome. I love that idea. You could have any type of Underdark creature, of course. So think of some nasty ones like Aboleth, Mind Flayers, Drow.
Wanti, Darrow, Beholders would be
Beholders.
good.
Yeah. Quaggoth.
I like them.
They're neat, right? For Mori, pick an Underdark monster. Is it mean? Add it. Is it crazy? Add it again. It's pretty simple.
Sometimes you can just add dead ones. It's just something for your party to
You
come across.
come across a dead Quaggoth.
Just because
Just cause, yeah.
it
I
got
love
picked up and dashed against the rocks.
Now, we've mentioned a lot about the wind and the stone, so creatures native to wind and stone would be perfect for this as well.
Absolutely. You got, invisible stalkers. Gargoyles have the potential to be very interesting here.
Yes. Dao or Jin.
Mm-hmm. Mephits. And I don't know if they still exist in 5th edition, but in 3rd edition, there were things called Gru, which were the evil versions of elementals.
Oh, cool.
And I think those would obviously, especially the earth and wind ones, would fit
It's
here.
windy and dark.
Yeah.
You are likely to be eaten by
By
a
a
gru.
gru.
Yeah. I think that would be perfect. Yeah. So any type of earth elemental or wind elemental. Fae would be great, particularly anything out of the Unseelie Court.
Right, because Mab makes her house here.
Yeah, and Phlegethon. Shape changers. And this is something of note that I haven't heard yet. First off, you're going mad. There is this intrinsic sense of paranoia.
Sure.
So anything that takes the form of a humanoid would be fair game, particularly something that looks like your players. This is ripe for this plane, and it doesn't get enough love. Can you imagine? You're walking along, as we mentioned, right? You got the first thief and the second thief, right? Maybe that second thief is a shape changer. Maybe you just start going a little crazy. You stab the thief. He dies and turns into a shape changer. It's oh my God, it's a doppelganger. Who else is a doppelganger? Maybe you are.
At the end of it, everybody kills everybody, and it turns out they were all shapeshifters, and all of the characters had previously died.
I love that. What a great story that would be, right? I think Sonic-based creatures like Destichans would be kind of cool. Ironic as well.
Yeah. It'd be especially funny because they have to get closer. Because sonic damage
Doesn't
has
really
half
work.
the distance
They
here.
have to shout to be heard, yeah. Be hilarious. Humanoids, of course, of all types because they get stranded or lost.
Yeah,
And this is the place where things get left and lost.
sure.
So in theory, what?
Literally any creature could work for this. Celestials.
And have it go crazy.
Yeah. Pick a slot, have it go sane.
That would be very scary.
It's a great time to roll on random tables. You know me. I love tables.
Yep.
I like the random. Once again, my brain sidetracked just a touch. The Tarask gets trapped in one of the really big tunnels and goes crazy and starts building stuff because it's an engine of destruction.
Sure, he built stuff for the Slod, the sane Slod that
Sure.
happens to be hanging out. He's got a foreman's hat. He's drinking a beer. He's got a wife beater on. Be delightful, right?
Yep.
And if you're wondering what we're talking about when we say sane Slod, go check our episode out on the Slod. We
Yep.
have one. Finally, you can also do dark gods, creatures best left forgotten. So maybe Cthulhu, Mighty Cthulhu would be just chilling in a pocket hole.
Sure.
But there's lots of gods in Pandemonium.
Well, yeah, there are lots of gods that make their homes there. There are also the potential to have lots more just locked in a hole somewhere.
Sure.
But you got what? Talos makes his house there.
Mm-hmm.
Auril,
The Frost Maiden.
right? Ibrandel
Mm-hmm.
or Ibrandel. I'm not sure which one that is.
Cyric.
Sure. Because he's already a little touched.
Yeah. Prince of Lies.
Garagos the Reaver.
Yeah.
You've got Gorlick, the abandoned god of the Knolls.
Which I think is cool. Hergic. I think that's how it's pronounced.
Sure.
The god of bugbears. And your favorite.
Task the Taker.
Yeah. God,
god
of greed.
of Dragon Greed.
I love that. We've got a couple of cultures and places as well. Again, this is purposely left empty, but there are a few that we've come up with. First off, in terms of cultures, the lost or the banished. So what do we mean by that? It is anyone that was able to survive in Pandemonium long enough for a length of time, or the descendants of those people who survived.
Sure.
That's it. It could be anyone. Humans, Duergar, demon lords chilling in the same building.
Yeah. When the place you're in is so absolutely terrible, whatever your neighbor looks like truly does not matter.
We're all mad here.
Exactly.
I mean, that's it's like
just a white heron gone with a frickin' pocket watch bouncing down one of the halls.
be perfect, right?
Yep.
Anybody that was exiled would be great in terms of a culture here, and I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yep. Prisons.
Oh yeah, have a prison here.
Yeah.
That'd be a
Just-
lot.
It's a huge prison that looks like Swiss cheese. Make sure the wind can get through.
This would be an awesome place for cults also.
Definitely.
So cults to death gods, cults to madness, cults to evil elementals.
Yeah, a place for warlocks to come and make pacts to great old ones.
Or Unseelie Fae.
Or Unseelie Fae, yeah.
Be a lot of fun too. Yeah. I love that.
This is a place for the faction, the Bleak Cabal.
Mm-hmm. Which, if you're unfamiliar with the Bleak Cabal, they believe that everything is crazy anyway, so you might as well enjoy it.
Might as well dance.
That's right. Mad Bards, a faction of mad bards which can hear music in the maddening winds.
Sure. Just like your guy with the saxophone.
Yeah, just playing a tune, right?
Yep.
Merry little time.
It would be hilarious if this whole faction of mad bards exists because somewhere out there there's a slot just holding up a saxophone playing the keys.
That's definitely happening in my game. That would be great. Or maybe a harmonica. He looks a little bit like John Popper from Blues Traveler.
Sure.
But he's a slod.
Yeah.
He's got a hook. It's bringing you back, guys.
We got a few locations here.
Okay, what are we dealing with here?
We have the Madhouse, which is on Pandesmos.
Okay.
It is a large city which wraps completely around the circumference of its massive tunnel. The Madhouse started as a simple walled inn. I love the fact that there's an entire city that started because of a walled inn.
Yeah, everything happens in a bar.
Right? It was run by the Bleak Cabal and over time became the city it is today. As more and more people came to live in the city, the inn had to grow and random buildings have been sprung up near its walls.
This is great. And every time it gets raided, it just gets rebuilt.
Sure.
And it doesn't really matter who raids it, right? They just keep building whatever flotsam and jetsam flies through the cave. That's always lots of fun.
Absolutely.
Now, I joked about Harmonica earlier, but there actually is a place called Harmonica in Cocytus, which is a large hub of tunnels and pillars of stone, and they've been carved out with holes dotted through them in various sizes. As the wind passes over them, an otherworldly sound could be heard that is far more terrible than any other sound in this plane. And I want to stress that by saying this plane will drive even deities mad.
I love the fact that somebody figured out a way to make it worse, to make the problem worse.
That's hilarious.
This location is heavily searched for by bards and musicians who claim you can hear the secrets of the plains in its melody if you just listen long enough.
Just take a listen, dude.
Sure. I'm sure you can.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's going to open your 14th eye. It's going to be wild.
Another interesting location in Pandemonium is Windglum, which is in Phlegethon, and it is the home of the Banished, or many of the Banished. Its citizens are highly suspicious of anyone who would travel to their city. And of course,
makes sense.
Yeah. Why are you showing up here? One of the things I like about it is one of the few spots that welcome adventurers, at least a little bit warmly, is a place called the Scaly Dog. That's all you got to say, right? Welcome to the Scaly Dog. It's an inn inside the city that is the perfect location in all of the planes to discuss secret plans, hire mercenaries, or do any other sorts of dastardly and devious plots.
That feels like a trap. This is the perfect place to
This is the
discuss
perfect
this
place
sort
I can discuss stuff. Yeah.
I feel like this is the place that accidentally spreads every whispered message to some place in the realm.
It's the bar that says not a spy bar.
Right.
Yeah, I love that.
You've got in Phlegethon, you've got the Unseelie Court.
Yeah, so you could roam through Queen Mab's realm,
Sure.
which our players are currently doing right now,
It's true.
much to their displeasure. You could also traverse the River Styx.
Yeah. Just a bunch of grung with sailboats, right?
Yeah, just catching the waves, bro.
Pleasure cruise.
Absolutely.
Now, it is said that sometimes, somewhere in these twisting caverns, you can find Vecna's tower.
Yes, the god of dark secrets and magic. So that's fun, too.
Sure.
If you happen to cross that, maybe you should say, hey, let me give you a hand here.
And then wink an eye.
Yeah. So what are some themes that we can incorporate into our campaign using Pandemonium, Matt?
Well, obviously, you got to start with the howling winds.
Yeah, so madness.
Right. Isolation.
Isolation would be great, right? You're isolated both physically and mentally, and that's a fun trope to play up.
Paranoia, because the worse place people get mentally, the worse things are going to get.
Yes. There's a concept of destruction or the winds of destruction, or even just like a metaphorical version of oblivion. So that could be physical oblivion because it's wearing stuff away, or maybe mental oblivion.
Yeah.
Right? You're losing You kind of be getting scoured of all of your mind.
Now, on the opposite side of that, you've got the whole quest to survival against all odds.
Yeah. This is definitely the extreme sport here, going into Pandemonium.
It's true.
Speaking of which, once you're in there, you could just have a simple escape theme, right? How do you get out?
Yeah. Prison break on a Planar level.
That would be great, right? Can you imagine you escape from Carcery, you're in Pandemonium, and this is like the chase scene? You're trying to get away from Carcery. You've got some demons coming after you. You're losing your mind in the tunnels, and this is the chase part.
Right.
And you're just trying to get away, right?
I like the idea that you have like a compass that is leading to a portal out, and it's literally a chase scene because you know you have a direction to go.
Mm-hmm.
Now you just have to make it.
Yeah. Things hidden and forgotten.
People don't generally survive this plane except for in one of the settlements, right? So anything that comes here other than to one of those places ends up lost and forgotten.
That's right. And finally, we have the theme of elder evils waiting to be found. Now, that could be in the plane of Pandemonium, or it could be something being summoned to the prime from the plane.
Sure.
Because remember, they're trapped in pocket holes and stuff in the bottom realm.
Yep.
So they might be summoning something from Agathion, and that'd be a lot of fun.
It could get real ugly real quick.
Yeah, get some kind of horrible squid-like thing that comes forth, summoned from the portal in your foamy beer mug, and just coats the world in slimy foam.
Absolutely.
That would suck.
Speaking of such things, we have a few story ideas that we can pitch for this place.
Okay, and again, as we mentioned, this is always just a taste.
Yeah.
Feel free to use these in your campaign. Hopefully, these will provide some inspiration for you.
Let's hope. First things first, we have a map to a dragon's hoard worth of treasure leads quest seekers to Pandemonium. Is it a fake? Is the treasure real? Or is it an elaborate trap?
I would say D,
Yes.
all of the above.
Exactly.
Yes. Players take a wrong turn in the Underdark and somehow wind up in Pandesmos. Will they find a way back before they all become howling mad? Maybe. The
Probably
Paladin's
before
going-
they all do.
Yeah, the Paladin's going to die first, though.
He's going to fall into the river Styx and drown.
Of course he will. Drown in the river Styx.
The son of a deposed ruler has fled to Windglum. The players are hired to find him or kill him.
Yes. Maybe a little bit of both, right? A Slod has set up a vacation home in the corner of Casitas where he kidnaps particularly interesting, i.e. mad, individuals.
Sure.
And plays the saxophone, as we've established.
A bard friend of the group, or one of the players, has stolen off to Pandemonium, lured by the call of strange music.
And I will have to say this. Can you imagine a warlock patron of the strange music? Great old one? That would be cool.
I can see that.
Sonic-based powers?
Yeah.
That drive people crazy. A rare flower which grows in the blasted crags of Phlegethon holds the key to suppressing a mental ailment.
Because there's no place where things normally grow, it's going to have to be in one of the settlements, which means whoever's got them probably knows what they're worth.
Yeah. So you're going to have to deal with that, right?
A local cave unleashes hordes of rampaging, crazed creatures of all types. You could have demons and devils, or anything else that found its way to Pandemonium.
Yeah, we're all crazy here.
Exactly. Has a portal to the Howling Winds been opened?
Say yes.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Absolutely. A cult of air genasi secretly meet in the Underdark, intent to summon the power of Pandemonium to crush their enemies, or perhaps summon an elder god, or an elder evil,
Sure.
or, as we mentioned, Flagarfrod, the beer god that coats
Snorgelflex.
that coats the world in oozy beer.
Terrible, terrible foam.
Yeah. Freaky foam night, guys.
Maybe a powerful servant of good has been banished to Agathion. Can the players find it before the servants of evil take over their lands?
That's pretty cool.
I like it, but also, can they find it before it goes crazy?
Now, that is an interesting notion because can you imagine you've got a powerful servant of good. Maybe this is how the game starts, right? There's been an epic battle between good and evil triumphed just a little bit more than good, and it banished the most powerful servants to Pandemonium, right? And the character's job is to go find those servants and bring them back to restore order to the galaxy,
Sure.
right?
to the whole galaxy.
The whole damn galaxy.
Sure.
So, restore order to the world, right? Yeah. And so they travel down there, release them, thinking that they've saved the world, but now they're all corrupted by Pandemonium, and they're mad.
Sure.
And so now they become the villains. And now you're even more screwed.
I imagine they're still going to be angry at the people who sent them, though.
Yes.
I think the way I would set this up is you go, you rescue them, they arrive back on the home planet, and they absolutely just curb stomp, just destroy the people who sent them to Pandemonium. Because they're mad about that.
Sure.
Right? That's only fair. And everybody's like, hooray! No. They're not good guys anymore. They were just most angry at those people.
They defeat the evil characters and then become the evil characters.
100%.
And then your characters are like, damn, now we got to defeat these guys?
Dang it.
Is there anybody else you want us to go to Pandemonium to go get?
Right.
So there you have it. Several lore options, some survival techniques to escape the maddening winds, some interesting creatures, some themes, and of course locations and story options for you to use in your campaign. I really like Pandemonium. I think this is a really cool place to send your players, and you should. And it is just, as we mentioned, it's ripe for using in a world. Right?
Sure.
It's a blank canvas if you know what to do with it.
Yeah. It's funny. Early on, I didn't particularly like Pandemonium because there wasn't much going on. It took me a while to decide that it was a fun location to make plans, right? Versus being a place that is a story unto itself.
Right. And we've got lots of story here, right?
Right.
Any questions or comments? Hit us up at Goblin's Corner on Twitter. Did you enjoy this program? We hope so. Subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player, YouTube and Twitch.
Click 5 stars and give us a review on iTunes and Podchaser. And on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe. Also hit the notification bell. It helps get our show in front of more people. It boosts the show and feeds the hungry algorithm.
Which is currently whipping up a furious wind to drive Matt and I insane.
That's super fair.
That's pretty fair, yeah. That's all the time we have for tonight. Once again, my name is Eric.
And I'm Matt.
We'll see you next time.
Good night, folks.
The Goblin's Corner is written and produced by Eric Holden and Matt Staples.
Show song by the Mighty D20.
What a wonderful guy.
This is a Subterranean production.
The end.